And welcome to tonight's Bible study. Hard to believe, Proverbs 27. When we started this 27 weeks ago, it was spring. uh, so here we are, Proverbs 27. I'm going to read through it and then we're going to focus on the verses. Do not boast about tomorrow, for you do not know what a day may bring. Let someone else praise you and not your own mouth, an outsider and not your own lips. Stone is heavy and sand is a burden, but a fool's provocation is heavier than both. Anger is cruel and fury overwhelming, but who can stand before jealousy? Better is open rebuke than hidden love. Wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses. One who is full loads honey from the comb, but to the hungry even what is bitter tastes sweet. Like a bird that flies its nest is anyone who flees from home. Perfume and incense bring joy to the heart, and the pleasantness of a friend springs from their heartfelt advice. Do not forsake your friend or a friend of your family, and do not go to your relative's house when disaster strikes you. Better a neighbor nearby than a relative far away. Be wise, my son, and bring joy to my heart. Then I can answer anyone who treats me with contempt. The prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty. Take the garment of one who puts up security for a stranger. Hold it in pledge if it is done for an outsider. If anyone loudly blesses their neighbor early in the morning, it will be taken as a curse. A quarrelsome wife is like dripping of a leaky roof in a rainstorm. Restraining her is like restraining the wind or grasping oil with the hand. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. The one who guards a fig tree will eat its fruit, and whosoever protects their master will be honored. As water reflects the face, so one life reflects the heart. Death and destruction are never satisfied, and neither are human eyes. The crucible for silver and the furnace for gold, but people are tested by their praise. Though you grind a fool in a mortar, grinding them like grain with a pestle, do not remove you will not remove their folly from them. Be sure you know the condition of your flocks. Give careful attention to your herds. For riches do not endure forever, and a crown is not secure for all generation. When the hay is removed and new growth appears, and the grass from the hill is gathered in, the lamb will provide you with clothing, and the goat with the price of a field. You will have plenty of goat milk to feed your family and to nourish your female servants. Again, there are several themes. Some of them are just simple proverbs. They have a immediate meaning. I want to jump to the one that I've heard quoted more often than ever. Number 17, verse 17, 27, verse 17. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. And I say that's famous because I have heard that verse numerous times. And by numerous times, I mean while in the prison environment, I would often advise inmates that no man is an island, that we all need each other. And just like iron sharpens iron, we as human beings need each other to sharpen ourselves. God does not give one person, except his son Jesus Christ, all the answers. And I never claim to have all the answers. And part of the thing that sharpens me is other people. And that may mean reading books and commentaries and listening to audios and videos. And the whole idea is that as a human being, none of us know everything. Last week we talked about ignorance and that I'm ignorant about many things, and so are you. But here's the thing, just like iron sharpens iron, we as human beings, as we interact and as we study the Bible and as we learn together and as we share perspective, um, and say, hey, this is the way I see it, and then you say, this is the way you see it. And I think that's really one of the things I miss. I know that many of y'all are enjoying this Bible study, but before COVID, we actually did Bible study as a group where we sat around and you can interact with me and one idea would spark another idea. And that's the whole idea is we do need each other as iron sharpen iron, so one person sharpens another. And so I look forward to next year as we do Bible study in person. Um, Part of the idea is maybe we can record those Bible study so that those who cannot physically be there present can see it. So I wanted to start with that. I started with that because I did not want to start with this first verse, to tell the truth. Do not boast about tomorrow, for you do not know what a day may bring. In reality, I have learned that we can make plans. We can make all the plans. And as a matter of fact, as we are wrapping up this year, I don't know about you, but I'm making plans for next year. I am deciding what goals I want for next year, what I want to accomplish, and the list goes on and on. But here's the thing that we need to recognize. None of us are guaranteed one day or another. I know last year around this time, I made all these plans for the church, plans for my family. I've mentioned a few in the past. This past year, we were supposed to have a big wedding at my house for my oldest daughter and have both churches come over and eat and celebrate. And there was plans for vacation Bible school, and there were plans, and none of it happened because of COVID. The reality is we cannot boast about tomorrow. The only time we have is now. We can make plans, and as I mentioned, I am making plans now for next year. I think COVID would be over, the vaccine will be out, and the church will bounce back. I am making plans, but none of us knows what any day will bring. And I know that this is true because while in the prison, one of the things I had to do was deliver messages to inmates about family members who had died or were sick and stuff. And, I would have the inmate, I would have to either go and find the inmate and track him down. And that was my preferred method. Because if I announced for an inmate to come over to see me, usually it meant that I was going to have to tell them bad news. And they would run over and say, Chaplain, what's wrong? So I would go and find them. And the moment after I tell them the bad news, be a parent died, a family member died, or whatever the news was, they had plans, but nobody really knows what a day may bring. I used to remind the inmates, I have lots of plans, but we live in Minnesota, and as I travel from my house to the prison or from the prison back to my house, with these icy slick roads, I could run off the road and die. We can all make plans, but we really are not in control. Ultimate control is God. Going on in the second part, it says, let someone else praise you and not your own mouth, an outsider and not your own lip. What great advice. People who praise themselves and such, and give themselves credit for things, I'm usually wary of them. And I'll leave it at that. Then the third verse is a very interesting verse. It says, stone is heavy and sand a burden, but a fool's provocation is heavier than both. And over again in Proverbs, we see that we should not associate, we should not, A, first be fools, B, we should not associate with fools, but to seek wisdom. And that this Solomon is saying, stone is heavy and sand is a burden, but worse than that is fools. And if you don't want to carry a burden, something heavy, don't deal with fools. I will leave it at that for that one. Verse 4, anger is cruel and fury overwhelming, but who can stand before jealousy? And this advice is really practical advice in my opinion. If somebody is angry at me, I would rather they just be angry and tell me what it is. It's sometimes we don't want to hear, when somebody's angry at us, and we feel like it's cruel. And that sometimes somebody is really angry and their fury can be overwhelming. But the worst thing can happen is that they don't express their anger, they don't express what they have, and instead, a person that is jealous will do things behind your back. And for me, my advice is if you have a problem with me personally, tell me to my face. If I have a problem with you, I will be upfront, because better to deal with the anger and continue as friends and know where we stand than for somebody to be doing something behind your back. And jealousy is that. Who can stand jealousy? They will do things and undermine you. And so I would rather have a person angry at me than jealous at me. Continuing with that vein, verse 5 says, better is an open rebuke than hidden love. Love and jealousy are kind of the same thing. And if you have to rebuke somebody because you're angry at them, it's better to be open and honest than to be jealous or to have hidden love, because hidden love leads to jealousy and like I said, underhanded things. We switch now, picking up at verse 6, concerning a few things about friends. But before we do, it says, wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses. And again, if you are a true friend and you have something that your friend did to you and you're angry about it, it's best to get it in the open, because and deal with the relationship up front, because I might feel hurt because you're angry at me. But wounds from a friend can be trusted. But enemies, they will be nice to your face and stab you in the back. And that's what that proverb is all about. Anger, rebuke, it's better to be upfront than to be deceitful, jealous, and nice it to a person's face and stab him in the back. There's a verse 7, that kind of switches theme. I'll deal with that later. Verse 8 says, like a bird that flees its nest is anyone who flees from home. Perfume and incense bring joy to the heart, and the pleasantness of a friend springs from their heartfelt advice. And I want to put verse 9 along with verse 6. It says, wounds from a friend can be trusted, and the pleasantness of a friend springs from their heartfelt advice. And if a person is angry at you and they give you their heartfelt advice, that is a whole lot better than for a person who is deceitful, jealous, and pretend. Continuing with that vein, verse 10 said, do not forsake your friend or a friend of your family. And do not go to your relative's house when disaster strikes you. Better a neighbor nearby than a relative far away. And true friendship is one of the most valuable things. I like to tell people, we choose our friends. We don't choose our family, but we choose our friends. And that advice here, do not forsake your friends. I mentioned a couple weeks ago, I have very few quote-unquote friends. People that I can count on from high school, college, seminary, work life that are true friends. And what I mean by that is if I have a problem, I can go to them and they will give me their heartfelt advice. Sometimes they will tell me with angry words, Ricardo, you have done something stupid. But I trust them. On the other hand, I know a lot of people and I am friendly with them. But that does not mean I trust them. Here's the thing. I am friendly, but that doesn't mean I am your friend. Great example in the prison. As the chaplain, I was always friendly. I was always friendly with everybody. But did that mean I became friends with the inmates and entrusted them with my lives and my deep, deep, heartfelt secrets? The answer is no. So the advice is do not forsake your friends. Like I said, I mentioned I have friends from high school, friends from college, friends from seminary, friends from work. And some people in the church environment become friends over time. But true friends, do not forsake them. And do not forsake the friend of a family. Family friends are so valuable. And I'm so thankful for the friends that I have. As I mentioned, there's like one from each era of my life. One from college, one from seminary, one from, high school, one from work life, when I was a chaplain at different places and stuff. Those friendships last over time, and distance may separate us, but we're in contact and talk to each other and never forsake them is the advice. And if you are in trouble, those are the people you can go to during trouble. Sometimes you can't go to your family because, as I've said, you choose your friends. You don't get to choose your family. Continuing here, we see, be wise, my son, and bring joy to my heart. Then I can answer anyone who treats me with contempt. And this is not only for males, but for any kids. When our kids do things that make us proud, it doesn't matter what people say about us, we are proud of our kids. And I can say I am very proud of my kids. And so this advice is we need to train our kids to be wise. And when they do things that, aren't so wise, as a parent, we should parent them and help them with it so that whenever somebody talk about my kids, I go, oh yeah, what a great kid they are, what a great job they did, and how wonderful they are. Verse 12 says, the prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty. I don't know what to add to that. Seek wisdom, and when you see danger, take refuge, avoid it. Prevention is better than cure. A penny saved is better than, the whole thing about Proverbs is it's trying to teach us some life lesson. And if we're wise and we see danger, we take refuge. But if we're foolish, we just keep on going and we pay the penalty. Take the garment of one who puts up security for a stranger and hold it as a pledge if it is done for an outsider. Again, be careful with who you lend money to. I told y'all I made the mistake before of lending to different people and never got paid back. I've lent to family. I finally reached the conclusion whenever you lend to family, reality, just make it a gift and give it to them and it's over with. The likelihood of them paying back is minimal. And if you are going to help somebody, just give it to them. But if you are going to do anything that involve where you're doing a loan, make sure you take a pledge. Take them to the bank. Let them sign. And my best advice is just send them to the bank and get out of it altogether. Verse 14, it says, if anyone loudly blesses their neighbor early in the morning, it will be taken as a curse. And here's the thing. I like my neighbors. As Christians, we are called upon to love our neighbors, to be good to them, to make sure that, we don't do anything harmful to them. But don't overpraise them is what they're saying. If anyone loudly praises or blesses their neighbor early in the morning, and in any relationship, especially as you get new neighbors, if you pile it on thick on them early in the relationship, oh, what great neighbors you are, later on, as you get to truly know people, sometimes you will regret, is the word that I want to say. It will be taken as a curse. So as you meet people, new neighbors, new people, be prudent and wise and not overly praise them at first. Get to know them first and their true character before that doing anything. Verse that I know that we don't want to deal with, but we have to. Verse 15, it says, a quarrelsome wife is like a dripping of a leaky roof in a rainstorm. Restraining her is like restraining the wind and grasping oil with the hand. You can't grasp oil with the hand. It's kind of slide right out. You can't hold the wind. And there's little or much you can do for a wife that's argumentative. But I don't think it's just wives. It's anybody who is argumentative, male or female. And that's the only thing I want to add there. We already did verse 17. Verse 18 and 19 talks about the one who guards a fig tree will eat its fruit, and one who protects their master will be honored. Guard what you have. It continues with that down in verse 23. But let's get through the other verses first. As water reflects the face, so one life reflects the heart. And what a great proverb. Who we truly are is reflected by our heart. As water reflects the face, you can see it clearly. We see people based on what they do from their heart. Not what they say, but what they do from their heart. One's life reflects the heart. I want to pause at verse 20 and do a little bit more than just talk for this. It said, death and destruction are never satisfied, and neither are human eyes. And that saying had an impact on me. For the reality is, people who bring death and destruction, they're never satisfied. They're always, death and destruction are never satisfied, and neither are the human eyes. Let's be realistic as human beings. As we see things, we're greedy, we want it. My wife accused me, especially during this time of Christmas, of having green-eyed Tiny Tim. I see something and I want it. I like it. And I finally reached this conclusion, and that's why I'm taking a few more minutes than normal for this. In life, I have learned never to be satisfied. I am happy with what I have. I am happy with my house. I'm happy with my car. I'm happy with my churches. But I'm never satisfied. And let me explain what I mean by that. Dissatisfaction is what propels us as human beings to improve. So I am never satisfied completely with everything as is, because there's always room for improvement. I'm never satisfied with the sermons I preach, the lessons I teach. I'm never satisfied because there's always room for improvement. The moment we become satisfied and we think we have it all is the moment we become complacent and we no longer grow. So here's the thing that I do for my life. I am happy with what I have. I'm happy with my wife, my kids, my house, my car, the churches, my job. I'm happy, but I'm not satisfied. And that doesn't mean that, things are bad. It means that there's always room for improvement. Because here's the thing. It is dissatisfaction that leads to progress. A person was dissatisfied with cutting the lawn and Belize, for example, we used to cut it with a machete. So he created, something that you could push called a reel mower. And then a person was dissatisfied with the reel mower and put a motor on it so that he could go faster. And today we have, they were dissatisfied walking behind the mower. So they got where they can sit on a mower and ride it around. And today we have big mowers that, do the job so fast and so accurate. It was dissatisfaction that leads to progress. And so much for my talk about dissatisfaction and happiness. Be happy, but be dissatisfied. And the dissatisfaction will lead to progress. The crucible for silver and the furnace for gold, but people are tested by their praise. Gold and silver, you refined it through the process of fire. You put it in a crucible and you put it in the fire. People are tested by their praise. If you praise somebody and it goes to their head, that's part of the test. Um, I whenever somebody praise me, I kind of wonder, is it good praise or is it flattery? Does it go to your head, or is it something that you say, yeah, I did a good job and I'm happy with it, or thank you? And the best thing I have learned to do is when somebody say you did a great job, is just say thank you and leave it at that, and I'll move on from it there. Verse 22 is about fools again. It says, though you grind a fool in a mortar, grinding him like grain with a pestle, you will not remove their folly from them. Proverbs is very right. There's very little you can do with fools. I dealt with so many people that, in my opinion, and I want for y'all to hear it, in my opinion, they were fools. I worked in the prison environment for 26 years, and I encountered a lot of them that were fools. They thought they were smarter than everybody else. They could beat the system, and they got caught. There's little or nothing you can do with fools. The ones that I worked with were the ones that weren't fools and realized that they didn't know it all and they needed help, and they came to me for help. The fools avoided the chapel, and there's not much you can do with fools. You could try grinding them, could work, do all the hard work, but it won't help. The last few verses go together, so I'll read them all at once and then we'll talk about it. Verse 23 says, be sure to know the condition of your flocks. Give careful attention to your herds. For riches do not endure forever, and a crown is not secure for all generation. When the hay is removed, a new growth appear, and the grass from the hill is gathered in. The lamb will provide you with clothing, and the goats with the price of a field. You will have plenty of goats' milk to feed your family and to nourish your female servants. Here's the thing. It's talking about wealth. Nothing lasts forever. Jeff Bezos, who is the richest man, a few months ago made the wise, insightful comment that even Amazon, the biggest, richest man right now in the world, will one day fail. Good example, Sears and Roebuck. Sears was a big store. They had the Christmas wish book. Basically, that's what Amazon is, except it's on the internet. Sears could have switched that wish book to the internet and sell so much and still be around. But everything fails. It starts small, it grows, and it dies. And that's what this is talking about. Be sure to know the condition of your flock, your herd. Pay attention to it. If you have wealth, if you have anything, pay attention to it, because it won't last forever unless you pay attention to it. There are so many people who, and usually they say the first generation earns it, the second generation spends it, and the third generation is poor and have to go back to work again. And the question is, how do you pass on wealth from one generation to the next to the next? Or even as this says, and the crown is not secure for all generation. David was king, it went to Solomon, it went on down, but even that dynasty failed. Every dynasty failed. And that's what Jeff Bezos is saying, is if we are complacent, and that's the word I want for us to, if we are complacent with what we have and don't take care of it, it will disappear. So when the hay is removed and the new growth appear and the grass is gathered in other words, we have to work and keep on working. And one of the verses that always amaze me in the book of Judges or even Exodus is, and there are the children of Israel, a new generation rose up. The question is, how do we pass on from one generation to the next generation to the next generation the important values of life that they need to pay attention to? That just because they were born in particular middle class doesn't mean that they will stay there. I've seen families that have a lot of money and the next generation, they spent it all. And you might know people like that. I know people like that. Obviously, I can't name names and point fingers. But I know people like that, and so do you, where they did not take care. They Let it all slide. Um, we need to pay attention to what we have and teach our kids. I mentioned this a few weeks ago that one of the things that we have failed on is we have failed with Sunday school as United Methodists, and that was one of the things that made us Methodists. We had a method to teach and pass on knowledge, and but we do need to take care of what we have. I will see y'all next week. Proverbs 28.